Hi guys, thanks for clicking on this video. I'm so glad you're here. I love these videos just talking about baby names. I did one of these last time I was pregnant, so 2 years ago. It was just really fun to go over why I like them because I do have kind of an interesting taste in names. I would say it is more unique, so I know they're not for everybody, but my first son's name is Elliot, and I don't feel like that's a unique name at all, but some of the names that I tend to gravitate towards or like are more unique. And then when I actually nail down the ones that I would want to name my own child, they tend to not be some of the more unique ones. But today's video, I wanted to run through some names that I love but will not be using for baby number 2. I am currently 32 weeks pregnant with our second. So exciting, can't believe I'm already 32 weeks. Whew, this baby is gonna be coming very soon. We do not know the gender this time, so we really had a tough time nailing down a name this time around. Like, before we conceived Elliot, Elliot was my top name. For probably 3 years prior to being pregnant with him, I was like, I want my first son's name to be Elliot. And so we didn't have a lot of struggle in picking out a name the first time. This time, however, we definitely struggled, which is not what I thought because I had names that I really liked before getting pregnant. And then once I was pregnant, those names just didn't have the same pull. So we kind of started over and anyways, we finally nailed down names. So a girl name and a boy name and middle names. So we had to have 4 potential names. Anyways, lots of names going around, but I wanted to share with you guys some of the names that I have just written down on my running list of names that if I read it in a book, if I see it in something, if I hear it out and about, or just, I don't know, randomly thinking of a name, then I'll write it down. I have a lot, but I'm just gonna do 10 girls, 10 boys. I think we'll start with the girls' names. So the first girl name that I really like is Holland. I don't know what it is about this name, but I just feel like it's pretty and elegant and unique. I don't hear it very much, and I liked the spelling, this spelling. I was like, Holland with a D on the end would be cute too. I liked Holland better than Holland, but I kind of like both of those. That's the first girl name. The second girl name is Valley, and I know that's very different, but there was just something about kind of spiritually tying into it is like, if you're in a valley, you just feel very lost, but there's that spark of hope in the valley, which would be like your pregnancy and your growing baby. I just thought that that would just be such a beautiful meaning behind the name too. I will say that Nick and I are not meaning first, how it sounds second. Like, we're definitely, do we like the sound of this name? And then we look up the meaning. So we don't really base our kids' names primarily off of the meaning of the name, but I know a lot of people do. So I just thought that that would be a pretty name with some pretty significance and very unique. The next girl name is Monroe. Obviously, you kind of think of Marilyn Monroe, but there's also Monroe, Washington. I grew up in the Washington area, and I kind of like the idea of places as names. I've definitely wrote down places before for boys, for girls. There's just something that I kind of like about places as names. So I do think about this as like a place and not necessarily as Marilyn Monroe, but I have heard that used as a girl's name before. So I think that's a cute name. The next girl name I really liked was Presley, and this is actually my younger brother's middle name because he was born on Elvis Presley's birthday, January 8th. And a few years back, I saw a girl's name online, I think, and her name was Presley, and I was just like, wow, first name Presley, I've never heard that. That's super cute. And I think it's a little bit more common right now, but I just think that's a really cute name. And my family loves Elvis Presley, so there's no negative connotation with using the name Presley, but I just think it's a cute girl's name. The next one, Nick really didn't like, and that's the name Navy. I think probably just because it has too many other meanings. Like, it could be the color navy blue, it could be the military navy. I don't know, there was something about that I thought that would be a sweet, cute girl's name, Navy. yeah, he was not on board with that one. The next one, actually, both Nick and I really did like for a little while, is the name Mila. I don't know if I know of anyone named Mila. Fairly uncommon, at least I haven't heard of a lot of girls named Mila, but I thought it was sweet. The next name I actually got from reading a book. It's the name Abra. I don't think Nick liked this one, but I thought it was cool. I thought it was a unique, but still like pretty, because it kind of is like Aubrey, or like a variation of Aubrey. And that's a really cute, pretty girl's name and a little bit more unique. So I liked it. I don't think Nick was on board, but I did get that from reading a book. And I love getting names from books as well. The next girl's name was Brea. I thought that was a really pretty name, Brea. Like I said, I don't know the meanings of these names. Unless we were really, really serious about a name that we liked the sound of, then we'd look it up. I just think it's cute, Brea. Short and sweet. The next one I think was another one that Nick didn't like, but I did. It's Renedy. So basically Kennedy, but with an R. I just think that's cute. I don't know, there's not a ton to say about it other than I just liked the way it sounded. I liked the way it looked, but Nick wasn't on board. And then the last girl's name is Jaylene. And I believe Nick thought this one was decent, but it didn't feel like it truly like stuck and fit for this baby. I do like it, Jaylene. I think it's cute and fairly uncommon, I would say, but not too abstract or out there. So anyways, those were the girls' names. And now let's get into the boys' names. So funny thing with this pregnancy was picking out boys' names. I had way more boys' names that I liked, way more that I was just like, oh, I love this boy's name. I love this boy's name. And the girls were so hard for me with this baby. Like, it took me forever to nail down a girl's name that I truly loved. But boys' names were just like popping up all over the place. I was just like, oh, I love that boy name. I love that boy name. And usually I hear the opposite, where the girls' names are easier for people to decide on than the boys. So anyways, I'll give you some of my boy names that I really liked. The first one is Abbott. And I also, okay, so on top of liking names that are also places, I also really like, especially for boys, really like last names as first names. Abbott, I've heard as a last name. I just really liked that for a first name. I thought that was cool and different. The next one that Nick was just not on board with, and I can't remember why, but was Everson. So similar to Emerson, I know a few Emersons, but Everson I thought was a little bit more unique, and I had only heard it like one time. There was a lot of talk about like different E names that we really liked, because Elliot, but Everson was up there for me, but not for Nick. The next one that Nick shot down was Madden. I still like that name, honestly, but he only thinks of Madden as like the football video game Madden. So I understand it's hard to picture your child's name when you hear that name and it's very attached to a certain thing. So he couldn't get over that. I could, but he couldn't. So he kind of shot that one down. But I do really think it's a cute boy's name. All right, the next one I really liked was Callan. And I think we both really liked this name, but we have a nephew whose name is Callian. Can't ever use Callan because we have a Callian. And that would just not work. But I do really love this name. There was a restaurant that Nick and I went to named Callan's, and so there's some memories tied into that. I just think that's a really nice boy's name. Strong, not too weird. I've also heard it as a last name, so that makes sense. The next one is Dallas. And it's funny because I've had this name on my list for a while. My parents worked with a Dallas. That was the only Dallas I'd ever met. But I did like that name. Again, it's a place, right? Places, last names, all that stuff. But now I have a close friend from a small group who's a girl whose name is Dallas. So won't ever be able to use Dallas as a name, just because for me, I want to have different names than the people who run in my like small circle. So if I'm having like friends in my small circle, I don't really want to name my kids the same name as them. That's just me. For me, Dallas is off the table just because of that. And I don't know if Nick was ever on board with that name. I can't remember, but I do really like that name. And now I've seen it in context of girls and boys. I've always just thought of it as a boy's name because that's all I knew. Next boy name is Kyler. And Kyle obviously is a very common boy name, but I just thought the little added spin of it being Kyler sounded really cool. I don't know anybody with that name. I know a lot of Kyles. And that's the thing too, is like if he wanted to go by Kyle, he could go by Kyle. Anyways, just having a little bit of a variation from a very popular name, thought that was kind of cool. The next one was Ezariah. I've definitely heard this name as Azariah because that is a very biblical name, but I switched the A for more of an E, Ezariah, instead of Azariah, and I just liked that better personally, and I thought it looked cool. I don't know anybody with that name. It is like a biblical sounding name, also just very unique and cool and strong. I think the idea of a Z in a name is pretty cool. Another one that I really liked was Breton. I just think that's a cute name, and he could go by Brett. I'm not one of those people that names my kids something so they can be called the nickname of that. So it's not like I would name my kid Breton so that people would call them Brett. If I wanted them to be called Brett, I'd just name them Brett. But it is something to think about of what could the nickname be of this. Like Elliot doesn't really have a nickname, right? We don't even have like a shortened version of his name that we call him. Like we have our own family nicknames for him, but there's not like a shortened version of Elliot. Actually, the names that we have chosen for this baby don't have nicknames either. So that'll be interesting, or don't have like shortened versions of their names. Okay, so I have two more boys' names, and these last two were very, very serious contenders for years for us. And I genuinely thought that if we weren't gonna name Elliot, he would be named one of these names. Since we did name Elliot, sorry for all the repetitive names, then the next baby for sure was going to have one of these names. I still love them, but I just don't feel the same pull towards them as I did a few years ago. The first one was Edison, and it's funny because my dad thought for sure the baby was gonna be named Edison because I had made a comment when he was around the house and we were waiting for Elliot to be born. Something about Edison came on the TV and I was like, that's a good name. And so my dad like took that and thought for sure that Elliot's name was gonna be Edison, and he even texted my older brother and was like, name prediction, Edison, you know. And it's just so funny now looking back at that. I'm like, yeah, I did say that because I did really love that name, and I was really trying to get Nick on board with it forever, but he didn't like it. I loved, and here's what's ironic about what I just said, I loved the nickname Eddie as well, but he knew people, I think he knew someone named Eddie that he didn't really like, and so it was hard for him to get over the fact that we might be calling him Eddie. Anyways, that was a very strong contender for me for a very long time. It is a last name that I liked as a first name, but we aren't going to be using it for this baby. The second one was even stronger than Edison. Like I thought for sure the next boy we were going to have was going to have this name, and that is Edley. Very similar to Edison. That's why I figured we were only gonna have one. It was either gonna be Edison or Edley. Edley was just such a top contender for so long. Like I actually, to be honest, Edley, I almost debated switching Elliot to Edley a few times when I was pregnant, because I was like, I love this name so much, and I still absolutely love this name. But for whatever reason, Edley just did not stick when we were talking about naming this baby. It's just so funny how preferences change, because I still really love this name, and I think it would be such a cute boy's name. Not for this baby, I guess, and who knows, maybe we'll circle back around. That's the thing with these things, is like names I've said in my previous video or names I say in this video, we could always circle back and use because I do like them. I just never know if I'm going to be using them for the baby that I'm currently pregnant with. So these are all the names that we will not be using for this baby. You'll have to let me know if any of these names are on your list, if you like any of these names, if you have children with any of these names, that would be super cool too. And then, this is always fun. It's hard to guess when you don't know the gender of the baby, but if you want to leave a guess of maybe the gender of this baby and potentially their name, I'm not gonna give like really any hints because I just don't think anyone could guess their names. So those are all the names that I'm going to include in this video. If you want to hear more names that I like that are similar in style, I will, like I said, leave my previous video linked so you can watch that too. And I don't know how many names I listed in that, but there's definitely a good chunk of girl names and boy names, and they're all different than the ones in this video, I believe. There might be duplicates. I haven't watched that video in a while, so if there are, I'm sorry. Give this video a thumbs up before you go, and I will see you in the next one.